So I guess this should work. Hot Rafty home, and we're live. Great. Welcome to the Safing live stream. I am Raphael. I think it should work. I don't see it yet. Now it works. Yes. Great. Okay. So welcome to the live stream. Sorry for the hiccup in the beginning. As you might have read on the Discord, I'm not feeling too well today. So if it is shorter, I'm sorry. But I will do my best. I got my tea already. So expect some tea today, not coffee as usual. And we are both calling from, I'm calling Daniel. We're not in the office, obviously. We're not in the
Obviously,
office
yes.
today. So if the quality is bad, this is all my fault, of course, not Daniel's, because he is doing a great job today. But I am, again, not feeling too well. But let's jump right in. I will let
Let's
Daniel do
go.
most of the topping. You good? Do you
Yeah,
hear me
sure.
well, Daniel?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. And you see us. Great. Okay.
It works perfectly.
If all works, that is awesome. Yeah, we got. Thank you all for putting in the questions in the Discord in advance. I had the opportunity to look at them in advance. Daniel this time did not, because he was coming back from vacation, and so for him this is the fourth day, and as you can imagine, there was a lot to
Yeah.
respond to and to go through after Christmas time. But yeah, so I guess the first question we can jump in is Benzo asked, Android app, when it's not when do we plan on adding more stuff than just the SPN? I already answered this a little bit, or Alfexo answered it, but I wanted to address it in the live stream. There are people who are not on Discord, but who are watching the live stream, some even not on YouTube. So if you're one of those, let's address this question by Benzo. Daniel, what are your thoughts? When will we continue with the Android app, and when will more features come into it?
Well, as it currently stands, we don't have someone actively working on it. So, I don't know if anyone of you remembers Vladimir, who was with us for half a year. Um, he primarily worked on the Android version, and we'd love to get him back as soon as possible when the funding allows it. So that's kind of the first thing we're gonna do when we have enough revenue, is to get him back on board, so he can continue on the Android app. Most of you probably are using Portmaster and having probably also have the interface open uh, once in a while. So you've seen that from the last 3 months, we've reached 101% of our funding goal, which is great. And we'll see how this continues. And I think to get Vladimir back on board, we probably need 130% to get him back. So that's kind of the goal you can look out for. And as soon as we reached kind of if you, as soon as we reach stability in the funding we have, so we already displayed the last 3 months, in order to not kind of jump around too much. But we have seen quite a spike in November and December following the video about Portmaster from the PC Security channel. And we do expect a bit of a drop within the next months again. So we'll see what the lasting effects are of this video, and but we're super thankful for what growth has already come from it. But yeah, we'll need to monitor the situation and see how things turn out. And as soon as we have the money, we'll um, get Vladimir back on board if he's available. That's also a question mark there, because we don't know when we'll reach that. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. Sorry that there isn't any better news around that. I would have loved to tell you otherwise, but yeah, right now this is paused, and we'd love to continue as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah, and we will probably update. I was only half listening because I was reading through the YouTube comments.
Okay,
So,
okay, yeah,
hello, Innovative Dev, and hello, Dog Hacks. Yeah, but I wanted to quickly say, like, we will probably adapt the scale as well
yeah,
to reflect
definitely,
that we have a
yeah,
new 100, which would be the Android developer. This was
yeah, or
already
yeah,
hinted at in the Journey update, which was linked,
hmm
which Alfaxo linked to Benzo, where he says that will be the next thing, and I clarified and I'd say this is the next funding goal. So, which of course, like, is yeah, I knew when I
we'll
wrote this.
update the view in Portmaster to reflect the next goal in some way. We don't know
Yeah.
how exactly, but yeah. Um, so when we're fairly stable with the current goal, we'll update it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Cool. No, thank you for the update. I might be clipping those answers as well, even though I'm looking stupid because I'm reading chats and stuff. But for the FAQ, and I might be doing this as well in addition to recording separate videos. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure. We will figure this out. But if you have suggestions where to clip them, the videos, put them in the comments. If you're like, well, this is a super great clip,
hmm
or clip them yourself and share them with us, that would be great. But you can, all who are watching, help in that regard. Or just put a link with the timestamp in the Discord. We will figure stuff out. I'm not like, I can do the clipping, but sometimes after the call, it has been, or after the recording, it has been an hour, and my head is just like, what did we all talk about? And I'm keeping track of all the chats, so afterwards, it's not always a good idea to jump in and figure out what we all talked about. The second question I wanted to talk about, and I'm only going through it from top to bottom from the Discord, but Alfaxo, and you can open this up as well, Daniel, if you want.
hmm
But the question, the TLDR of it is, what about app locker function? Adding app locker function to Portmaster. The app is like, and he's saying particularly like functionality where Portmaster can apply different rules to signed apps and unsigned apps. Um, like adding a way to block all apps that access internet except if they are digitally signed.
hmm
This can
hmm
give a lot of flexibility and make stuff easier just on its own. Um, yeah, and he's like, he already acknowledges that this is a feature that 90% of users would not care about. And this is always, of course, tricky with that stuff. But I just from a what would, like, how could this be doable? Could we do that? Just answer basically the question, not and maybe then give a guesstimation on where you would feel we should put stuff like this, where we
hmm
could
hmm
put stuff like this,
hmm hmm
how open we would be maybe to help from the open source community or stuff like that. But quickly, like,
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think this is a really good idea, both from kind of the place where Portmaster is and what we can do, and also from uh, kind of where we're going to go and the value that Portmaster can bring. So I think it's definitely in our pathway somewhere. Um, I think that it will be really great to have that in there. But it's hard to tell when we'll get there. We don't have that on a specific roadmap. It hasn't been requested a lot or ever so specifically until now, I think. Um,
similar stuff
yeah,
in the similar vein where it is about digitally signing and our application, which is digitally signed um, in different ways depending on the platform. But yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
So Windows in that regard is a lot easier than um, other platforms. Well, Mac does that too, but we're not there yet. But Windows has good support for signing binaries. Linux is, well, um, Linux just signs packages a lot, but they don't sign the actual binaries. So it's not that easy to verify a currently running system. And also based depending on the Linux distro, things are very different from what you'd want there, um, because some distros are very like traditional in the sense that you just install packages and that's it. And there have been quite um, some new Linux distros like NixOS and stuff that like started with all this immutable state things, and I don't think it will bring loads of value there, because you already control all this stuff um very well in regard from the US. But yeah, definitely for Windows that would be a really cool thing to do. Um, I haven't looked into yet specifically how much time that will require and how we do it and kind of what the options would be. So is it just signed yes, no? What happens if no? Is it just a block or does the profile not apply? And it uses a fallback profile, or like can we constrain that in a sensible way to uh, a certificate or a company? Can we say, okay, this has to be signed by a certificate that belongs to this and that company?
Yeah,
So that's
good
kind of
question.
things that are like a lot of options out there, and that may require assistive infrastructure,
Yeah.
uh, depending on like how available these certificates are, how well we can match them, and stuff like that. Do they change? Do we want to discern between normal certificates and EV certificates? So there are lots of stuff in there, and so um, I I can't tell right now how we'll start out with that and stuff like that. But I think that it is definitely in our direction that we're going, in the broad direction. So we'll probably pick it up sometime anyway. But it's not gonna be in the near future, I think. Yeah. But super cool idea. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah. How about if we're already sort of like in this realm of, I don't know, niche features, but we got asked, and maybe Windows, not necessarily, but somewhat Windows specific. We got asked in the past quite a lot that we would lock Portmaster changes, for instance, like shutdown in particular,
Hmm.
behind root access or like admin access.
Admin access.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for Windows admin access. How about that? I feel like it's a similar pro-ish user feature,
Hmm. Hmm.
or maybe for a parent if they're administering
Yeah.
a computer for a kid or something.
Yeah. I think it really depends on like what the goal is with that. So Portmaster currently doesn't have any kind of self protection where it would kind of stop anything else from shutting it down if the correct permissions are there in the system. So if you have admin privileges, um, you can shut down the Portmaster service just like any other service
So
in
you're
Windows.
saying, because you're
With
like, if you have admin privileges,
yeah,
this is already the
system.
thing.
Yeah, so you need to be administrator.
Yeah.
And in the Windows world, I don't know what the current state of that is, but and how kind of this Windows user account, it's called UAC. There's this kind of system that helps you not do admin stuff accidentally, that a lot of people just disable because it just is not that helpful sometimes.
You're talking about
Um,
the block, the pop up thing where you
yeah,
have to click.
exactly. So, but the reason they started doing this is because a lot of people are just using their admin account. And that means that a lot of stuff they run just runs with admin privileges to some extent. Um, so the question is how much does it make sense? But kind of if there's an actual use case where people are like, okay, they're gonna set this up um, for their kids, and their kids only have a restricted account, then that would make sense, because then there is a natural barrier that we can then not we can kind of extend into Portmaster. Doesn't make sense really creating a new barrier. But if a barrier is there that is already being used by a user, then we can extend that barrier into Portmaster. So the idea would be to restrict any changes and shutting down and stuff like that to an administrator account. So the user interface must be launched by an administrator account in order to do these things. So that's something I can see in the midterm future, I think. But yeah, we're not there yet that we would kind of define our own barrier, where kind of we would kind of protect Portmaster from being shut down, because I think that, and for many people, that would be in the way of their user experience. And things can really go wrong. So if, for example, Portmaster will only shut down if you do it via the UI or something. What if the UI is just broken? Then yeah, you have it on there and you can never remove it. And so then you'll have to start with Windows safe mode and all that stuff. So I'd rather just use an existing barrier and extend that into Portmaster, because that's a lot more natural as to recreating kind of our own barrier. But yeah, so that's kind of the ideas we have about that. So yeah.
But what you're saying is it's already like only processes with admin privileges can shut down Portmaster. Some user space stuff usually can't, but as you're pointing out, on Windows, and I myself am the same thing. Like if I'm in a personal setting, I only have one account. I don't have a separate admin account.
Yeah.
Which is good practice, of course. But on Windows, it's so much harder to do, and so I so understand. And yeah, okay.
So just to clarify, because Portmaster is running as a system service, you can only shut it down using the Windows tooling when you have administrator privileges. So you can't shut down Portmaster from the outside without being an administrator. But of course, any user can launch our UI or the notifier and shut down Portmaster that way, because that makes Portmaster shut down itself. And that's kind of where we would that's exactly where we would extend the existing barrier into our own system, where kind of we check that the UI is also running as administrator, which of course means that for any change to happen, you have to kind of log out and log in as admin, do the change, and then go back, which of course instantly breaks stuff like prompting and stuff, because that changes settings.
Sure.
And that can.
But that's a feature for people who want that. No, I understand.
Exactly. So just because as an example, so this introduces a lot of problems we didn't have to solve somehow. So it has a long tail. It's not just let's do this and we're done. So we also have to like revisit kind of everything we're doing with authentication internally, because then Portmaster suddenly really has multiple kind of users accessing the system. And we have some preparations in that regard. So there's kind of an API access level system that we have in place that we can use for that. So we've already prepared for a use case like this, but we have to kind of be sure everything's correct and it's actually also enforced in every detail. So yeah, lots of things we'd need to do to get that right first. So yeah, I'd say it's not going to happen short term, but midterm, I can probably see this happen.
Innovative as a pro user already says, gives a suggestion on how people can do that themselves. So they can already just redirect Portmaster UI notifier in app blocker with ACL if they really want to. It's really borderline use case, they can do that themselves. I
Really?
understand and I feel you,
Yeah.
but I would say like for a dad who's not that technical, I feel like it can help, and it can be easy. It is more like a home setting. It is more like an I'm
Hmm.
managing it for somebody else setting and stuff like that. But I understand and very cool. Maybe innovator. Maybe we can write a Wiki tutorial for that to make it easier for others in the meantime to implement that. If you have
Hmm.
ideas on how to do that, maybe with some screenshots, that would be super helpful.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would add that to the wiki.
That's
And it,
actually a cool idea
yeah,
to
an additional
to work
question,
around
Daniel,
that way.
maybe is this AP like is there an API access to shut down Portmaster from the inside? Because you're saying like the notifier can do that. Could potentially somebody else spoof that that request, and how easy would that be? Are we currently protecting this already, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So how it works is that we already have this privilege level, especially on the API itself. So if you just access it from anywhere, you only have access to the API endpoints that kind of are defined as public, which is a couple of basic endpoints. And then for all the other levels, you'd have to get a binary the um, into the portmaster data directory, because that's kind of is the trusted directory, and stuff executed from there is allowed to access privileged API endpoints. So that's kind of how we do it. We check who is the process accessing the API and assign privileges based on that. So
Super cool.
portmaster stuff itself gets privileges, everyone else does not.
Okay.
But there also is an for all the kind of really pro users out there, there is an API key system in place that you could use to access the API from somewhere else too, if you'd really want that.
Super cool. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that as well, because I feel like this might be an a thing
Yeah,
where
yeah.
people
No,
are
so it is secure. There's no fear there. So um, any other software cannot just access the Portmaster API and do whatever they want. So we protect against other stuff interfering here. Definitely.
okay. Ah, Innovative Dev already promising he makes a VM and does it this weekend.
Great.
Super cool. I hope I got that correct, but yeah. Futile Recipe also asked about us using F-Droid instead of Acrescent App Store, something like that. I don't know what's it called. Do you know about that? And I feel like you on Graphene OS? I thought you're on a custom ROM, but are you on Graphene, Daniel?
Myself,
Yeah,
no, I'm on Calyx.
you're on Calyx at the moment. Okay, but
Yeah, yeah,
but you are using F-Droid at the moment,
yeah.
don't you?
Sure. So what we're doing is we have our own repository, which, as far as I understood correctly, you can just add that to F-Droid or to wherever. Actually, I think the default guide is to add it to F-Droid. So um,
No, and he's asked, but he's claiming that F-Droid is not like good anymore. It's considered from a security perspective less like worse than this Acrescent.app store.
okay, well, um, I I'm not familiar with that. At least I think. And
All is
probably have
well.
come
So
across
you
it.
have not used that other app store. You're still on F-Droid.
I may have seen it, and but I don't remember right now. But we do kind of publish um the APKs on our update server, and that's also where the kind of, I think it's, I don't know if the repository is specific to F-Droid or if that's a generic format. I don't know. Um,
You can also
but
download the APK, I think, directly as well.
yeah, Yeah, you can.
Yeah, don't have to use any store.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and if
also
we
it will even will it, let me think. I think
auto
there's
update itself.
not auto update, but it will tell you if there's a new version,
Hmm.
so you can update. So there is something in place. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, at the moment there's just one version. There are
yeah.
no updates
I,
anyway. So yeah,
I thought
that's
so
how.
that it can't auto update. I think this is not a functionality that's easy. What I want to say then is, as soon as we start continuing Portmaster on Android development, we can look at this again.
Yeah,
And we
definitely.
will all like assess at that point. At the moment, it's not too. We don't think about it too much, as it is a beta and it is like it works and it works fairly well, but we are not putting a lot of resources into it at the moment. And I feel like we're fairly clear about this. But if we are continuing, like if we're spinning that back up again, then we will look and assess when the time is there to where to distribute it. And we would want to have it in the Play Store, in the regular Google one as well, of course. But now this does not make sense. Later it would make sense, of course. Maybe not if we have to strip it down too much. But as we keep on saying, privacy is important for everybody, and not just for the people who are on
Yeah,
Graphene OS
yeah,
and have the luxury of deciding, well, what app store alternative is better. Privacy is important for everybody, and so being on the Google Play Store, of course, would be nice for everybody who's just getting onto their privacy journey and stuff like that. So,
yeah, yeah.
we would look into this. But being more places is a good thing, I guess, in that regard, especially if it's like first party, if it's us uploading it. I've seen more and more places where Portmaster, like the desktop application, is distributed. Which I'm always a bit skeptical about. Like, if it is signed, if they just copy the exe, and if the signature is ours, you can check, of course. Then it should probably be fine. Maybe check the checksum as well. But if you're already that far in, like, why would you download it from somewhere else?
Yeah.
I just don't understand. I so don't understand. But yeah. That's my 2 cents to that. I guess that has been most of the questions already. Do you want to go into an FAQ question, which we got, which is not? I promised that we could go into price reduction in today's live stream. You want to tackle that quickly?
Well, are you asking me to tackle it?
No, I'm just asking how well
I can
you
add
feel.
comments.
How well you feel, and if we can. No, let's tackle that quickly. It has been a very long conversation. Did you read it, Daniel?
The conversation? No.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know.
No, it's a 71 people conversation. We were and I feel it was E who was asking, but that user account I think changes letters. I know we have V as well. It's a different account, but E, and I think it was A in the past. Who knows? So I was asking, I don't know if it would be better, like, but a lot of people don't use SPN because it's more expensive, than their current VPN. Maybe something to consider, price reduction. And we went way deep in there, talked about the pros and cons, and some other people were chiming in afterwards as well, regarding their opinions. And we always like getting opinions. If you have an idea and think, well, this package would make sense, and I read about the 3-month package, especially for those people who are considering paying in cash and stuff like that, and they would just like a small cake pack, in regards maybe 27 euros instead of 30 or stuff like that. And I understand, I do. Less than 10 euros was a decision I made a year ago, I think, that we don't accept less than 10 euro like single purchases, just because of the transaction costs and stuff like that.
In one transaction.
Exactly. But a price reduction overall. I feel like, and Daniel, you can chime in with your opinion, of course, as well. But from my perspective, and I think we iterated that quite often, VPNs can be that cheap because they basically just take WireGuard, which has been developed by somebody else, and implement it, and they don't have to put any R&D into that. And yes, they have to develop some desktop application maybe that does like changing of keys and the login, log out. WireGuard does not provide that, but it is a very lucrative business, and you can talk to a lot of people out there who are like how much kickback they can get for sponsorships with them and stuff like that. And our profit margins aren't that big. We cannot give a, I don't know, what was it, 50% kickback on subscriptions and stuff like that. That's not a profit margin that we have. And it's also might be related to traffic cost as well. I don't know how they can maybe volume purchase traffic and stuff like that, but we can't because we want to have different locations and we want to have like physical locations. Today, somebody, and Daniel was looking at this as well, like somebody was asking about a community node, hosting community nodes. And we were like, you have 3 nodes in the same location. That does not make sense for SPN. SPN does not just require tons of IP addresses. We want big servers where tons of traffic can mix with each other. But you can go into details there as well. And we optimize our everything that we do to support this mixing and going through similar servers and stuff like that. So we cannot just buy the 5 cheap servers in the same location or stuff like that and get volume discounts or something. In that regard, because it does not make sense for SPN. It would not make sense for you, because then if you have 2 hops in the same data center, this is not helpful. This does not increase your privacy. Anyway, today I was writing something. Do you want to continue and I quickly read?
Sure. So there are a couple aspects to this. So of course, what Rafa just was mentioning is servers. So not only do we need a couple more servers, because we have multiple hops in our system, but also the server locations are important. So we try to diversify server locations as much as we can, and the community is a big help in that too, because we need to be distributed to spread that privacy as best as we can. VPN providers are just concerned with giving you some random IP address. It really doesn't matter where it is. They can just choose one big provider, get volume discounts there, and call it a day, and that's it. And they have kind of their fixed data centers in a couple countries, and they're good to go. And they just buy maybe 100 servers there, and they can kind of scale that in that direction.
Yeah.
But for us, kind of with the hop by hop encryption, every server is a much more important part of the infrastructure and interact with all other servers. So the kind of the whole system is more complex, because we do actually want to provide great privacy. So that kind of goes into the next thing where that software we built that from scratch. It's not just kind of a VPN or WireGuard or something slapped on. It's actually a custom built protocol to minimize privacy at every point where we can. And we far outperform any VPN in terms of privacy. Of course, there's always a balance to things. So the balance here is that with this really high focus on privacy, we do need more resources. That's resources in development, plus resources in hosting the servers, so we can get that. We can power that network.
Yeah. And if you compare us to prices from like a similar like privacy concerned VPN provider like IVPN, their IVPN Pro plan, it does cost $10 per month for 7 devices. We're €10 per month for 5 devices. So I feel like we are not that differently priced as well. I understand that the aspect of maybe like being able to reach more people, but that's not like not the at the moment something we can do. It is
Yeah.
a goal, but it is a goal with free Portmaster, and we can't live by nothing. I mean, Innovative Dev was just informing us, Daniel, that he's apparently a Nigerian prince, and he wants to give us $5 million, no, $5,000 for a lifetime SPN account in cash. If you drive to Austria, Innovative Dev, and I know you're currently staying in the EU, or at least that's what you're saying on the Discord, please come by. Our address is public, like from SPN offices, is publicly available. Or you can reach out on Discord. I'll let you know. We can meet up in a coffee shop.
Yeah, Vienna has a lot of great meeting places for
Exactly. Such
deals.
transactions.
Yeah, we've got a reputation for that.
And I miss it was only $5,000. It was not 5 million. I'm sorry. But
Okay,
yeah,
well,
maybe
take that
not
too.
then. Who knows? Lifetime is and we talked about lifetime in the past as well. We it is a legal thing, of course, as well. But if we want to honor, we want to honor. If we say lifetime, we want to mean lifetime. But this is so difficult.
Lifetime
to
of who?
keep. Again,
Lifetime of who? That's always the question with lifetime access.
yeah,
Whose life?
yeah. A fruit fly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next thing Innovative Dev was writing, did you try approach business branches of consumers, ISPs, like instead of going to OVH in France, you can try to ask Orange business branch. We have not yet reached out to those entities. This might be interesting, of course, as well. If any of you watching have like contacts to or like knowledge about this, and we know Orange, like they used to be a carrier in Austria as well, like from the name. But yeah, it would be interesting getting to know, and we learned a lot over the years. To whom we go to, what are we evaluating, basically. Where do we get what kind of access as well, and stuff like that. It is super interesting. And yeah, next part from Innovative Dev was, it was less flagged than OVH ranges in regards to IP addresses, I guess, when it comes to service blocking, hosting anonymous things online. Yeah, super interesting. We of course want to like unblock the most stuff as we can. That's part of the thing. If SPN IP addresses get blocked everywhere, that is not a cool thing. But in return, like we know we get what are they called again, Danielle? Those requests?
Oh, DMCA requests.
Yeah, we are getting DMCA requests.
Yeah. So we know what you guys download if someone sends a request and like, oh, someone's like not downloading but probably uploading this and that torrent again. So okay.
Yeah, and we can't do and we just respond and we're like, we don't know what the people are like. We cannot link the user to this upload. This is not possible for us.
Yeah, we can share the boilerplate that we sent back, and we usually I just get the email, I go reply with template, send, and we never hear back. So
exactly, and
that's how that works.
Exactly, and all works out well. So I'm not sure Innovative Dev. It is an ongoing back and forth. Our current approach is trying to reach out to the services themselves, which are blocking us, because usually it's about IP reputation, and any new IP address with those practices, with those DMCA requests and stuff like that, will be downgraded anyway. Does not matter like where we go to. But if we can actually tell those services how this stuff works, some of them are receptible and some of them then can like work something out with us, because we know our IP addresses and they can so too, of course. And so they would then know that it is not a bad thing. And one even reached out to us. They were very polite and very friendly. I think it was a Hungarian company who reached out and who was actually experiencing an attack through the SPN on their services, or at least they thought it was an attack. Yeah, very teeny tiny. But they were very friendly, and we talked with them and stuff like that. So if people reach out, and also partly what helps is if you put just the IP address of an SPN node into your browser, you see that it is an SPN node and there is contact information on there. So
Most of the time, there is one precondition, so it has to be configured correctly.
yeah, no, but our nodes are.
Yeah, but ours are.
Ours
So
are.
yeah,
Community nodes might not, but ours are.
yeah.
Um, I Vladimir said something on the Discord.
Oh yeah, right. Um, yeah. So Vladimir said, F-Droid was chosen because it's more or less the standard for publishing open source apps, and every popular open source app is there, or has its own repo that you can add to F-Droid app. And Accrescent is maybe better, but still very new. Um, so and there's apparently verification process there too that we'd have to run through. So I don't think it will be a problem, but still, it's just kind of also cost resources to do that. Yeah.
Super
So
interesting.
thanks, Vladimir, for um, adding that
That
here.
information. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Another thing, like
yeah,
surely going back to the discussion of the price reduction,
sure.
I I think you found that like in the last couple of days where their IVPN had a blog post
Yeah,
where they were actually admitting to, hey, yeah, so about that kind of net
NetFlow.
flow data and kind of finding out who a VPN user is, yeah, there's nothing that one can do about that. So they're kind of interestingly, I don't know why exactly. I think it's cool, but they're pretty much acknowledging themselves that if someone has access to NetFlow data, enough sources from around the area you are, and you're using their or a VPN service from, they can probably identify you anyway. And that's kind of the exact reason why we built SPN. So they acknowledge that SPN is not only superior, well, they didn't directly, but indirectly through that. But they're stating that actually this is something that we need. So I found that pretty cool. So that was nice.
The thing that is still something that can be, of course, like with NetFlow track, like what the ISP still sees about you is when you're online. This the ISP still sees, and they see, of course, the one connection to the home node. But we're not like part of it is like why we're not changing the home node too much is so that like this traffic cannot be analyzed as well. Danielle, you were talking to me. I might be fever dreaming something here. Who knows? But uh, swapping the home node does not make a lot of sense in regards to increasing trust.
Well, the thing with the home node is especially the NetFlow data, which is talked about. You want to reduce who can see that. And the further away your home node
Yeah,
is, the more networks see that NetFlow data.
that is true.
And the closer the node to you is, the less networks your NetFlow, you kind of full NetFlow data is exposed to. And of course, we mask that and kind of normalize traffic and everything. So um, we do everything we can, but still, it's better that your home is nearer. And there's like from how the network works, there's no like big value in changing the home node because that doesn't identify you. Um, there's no kind of time based thing where if you're too long on there, it will be easier to identify you or something.
Yeah,
So yeah. So there, of course, like with analysis, there's always a higher layer too. So and if you really care about your privacy a lot and you have reason to do so, then you need to practice very good operation security anyway. There was this case where they had a hunch that a guy was kind of taking part in some online dark market stuff, some website, and that guy was also in some, I think it was an IRC server. So, but they didn't know it was him, and they actually never like traced him back through the network. But what they did is they just looked at when he gets home and when he leaves home, and that perfectly coincided when he goes online in that chat server and goes offline from that chat server. And so that's like so high level that no technology can fix that, because if you get home and go online and then go offline and go from home, that is kind of just so up high that nothing can fix that. That's just your behavior that you're exercising.
What I
So there is always a limit to what
yeah.
we can do technically. Um,
What I was hinting at was, of course, my most favorite
oh yeah, you
my most favorite tidbit about that splitting your traffic through multiple ISPs. Something we have been thinking about for the longest time, and
yeah, that's really cool, and I hope we can do that in not the near future, but
but it would be
hopefully
so cool because that would,
sometime.
of course, like you can sort of like swap between ISPs or stuff like that, and
It definitely, but also what you can do with that is you can actually start like um masking your net flow data
yeah,
in a whole new way, because you can just start randomly using multiple connections. So you can just send out packets randomly over multiple connections that then end in the same home node, from where you then kind of continue out in the network.
exactly.
So you can actually actively um, only mask, but actually change the net flows of your device to further decrease
Yeah.
the thing. And that's something that VPNs will probably never be able to do. Um, and that's something I think no one at the moment does, having multiple uplinks to the entry node. Not only kind of physical connections, but going through kind of multiple intermediary entry nodes and then kind of combining that again at some point to continue the network.
And of
So
course, we don't do it at the moment as well. We technically and theoretically could. And I love this idea. I want to do this so much. We have something in near Vienna, which is called Funkfeuer, which is a Wi-Fi peer-to-peer network.
a mesh network, yeah,
Again,
a mesh network,
mesh network, yeah. And
yeah, but
so
hardware,
it's
not virtual.
community based and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
you go on the top of your roof and you like fixture up two Wi-Fi, like long range Wi-Fi antennas, and then you just like get into this mesh network with other people, and you meet up with them, and it's a cool community and so on. Love the concept, love the idea, but it's so slow. I like from what they are saying, because you have to go through multiple Wi-Fi hops to
yeah.
actually join the internet back again. But as a secondary thing, just to reduce net flow, that would be so great. And as soon as we finish this feature, I will attend the meetups. I will learn what needs to be learning, and I will get the biggest Wi-Fi antennas I can afford and put them on the roof to connect to as many like hubs in Vienna as possible. So yeah, that's my goal. That's what I actually want to do. Alfexo joined us. Hey guys, he said he had his timer late. Well, but thank you for being here. We're almost off already, but you can watch it, of course, back and give us feedback. We were going into your questions, both of them, or like the one that you answered already, and the second one about the app locker function in the beginning of the show. So go back and watch that. I might do a clip later on as well and put it in the FAQ. Who knows? Not sure. We'll see. if I when I will do this and how long that would take. Cool. So, Danielle, I already mentioned we're wrapping up. Do you have something to add for today's live stream? Do you want to share something?
I think I just had a thought regarding the topic before, but I lost it. So no.
Okay. We were talking about Funkfeuer earlier. Want to say something about cool
Yes.
grassroots?
The cool thing about them is that I think they have a sponsored 1 gigabit uh, uplink with the provider. So as soon as you get through all the Wi-Fi entanglement, then it gets really fast. So,
Yeah, Wi-Fi
but yeah,
famously not very good.
yeah, it's a really nice idea, kind of to start that, because of course that's kind of the actual best way to avoid surveillance is to just not use the surveillance networks. But that's why, yeah, we will realize that's practically not possible for pretty much everyone. So that's why we built SPN to have a privacy regardless of you actually needing to use the surveillance networks.
But yeah, but just like, why are we thinking about this? Because you could have just like a phone as a second device. Probably you have anyway. Probably at your location where you have a DSL or like a fiber connection, you also have 4G, 5G connectivity. So basically, you're already in a position to combine two. I would be in a position where I could combine three. So this is the reason why I'm like, oh, I would definitely go up and get some antennas on the roof. But of course, like maybe for others, and you can think about that what you want. But Starlink, of course, might be an option for many people out there as well. And maybe they don't like Starlink as their first option, but maybe if they can split and use both at the same time, this of course would be so cool. Splitting your traffic and so on.
Really depends like what base station you exit the satellite network and kind of where you go from there.
Sure.
I don't know is there a current map of Starlink and their base stations?
I have not looked at it. I just wanted to mention that this might be a cool third option for somebody who feels like, well, I already have DSL or fiber and I have 4G, but what would be a third option? Starlink, of course, would be a nice third option. Or if you have a program like Funkfeuer near you, I think that they're more common in Europe because Europe is just more dense in population.
I think Brooklyn has one of the biggest ones, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Maybe consider moving to Brooklyn.
Really interesting. There are a couple out there in that regard. I think Spain has a big one and Brooklyn. I think they're the two biggest.
I don't actually know if we have somebody in the community from Spain.
Yeah, and there's there's I think at least, or was a yearly meetup in I think Slovenia. Yeah, so there's a couple of like grassroots stuff going on in Europe about that, and definitely the US too. And there are also like internet providers for rural areas that actually, I think they don't use Wi-Fi, but the ham spectrum. It's not that speedy, but it also works. I think it's called Atheros or something like that. I'll post a link if it's on.
We are going way off rails.
Yeah, we're going way off here. All these alternative mesh networks, but that's a really cool topic. So if anyone is interested, look into that. There's cool stuff there.
Alfexo just disclosed being very, very close to Spain.
Oh,
super interesting. Well, yeah, no, from we like and you, as I guess people who are watching live can imagine, like a lot of the people who are awake during that time now are in Europe, and we sort of like have the vague feeling that we're 50-50-ish Europe and North America. There are people from other places. Do you recall what the node hoster in Australia is? Very cool dude. He's also on Discord. But that's of course Australia. Down under. Very much confused with Austria, but very far apart. the most of the people are around here. But if you're not from here and your SPN speeds are not that well, reach out. We would like to know where more nodes are required. For us, we always, like as Innovative Dev just mentioned, we have like cool people who are telling us where they want to see nodes in Europe. Orange, we will look into it. Innovative Dev, thank you for the recommendation. And stuff like that is so helpful. But the volume, of course, from people in Europe and North America is much higher than any other place in the world. So if you're living South America, we had somebody reach out, tell us some cool locations and stuff like that. But basically, like, I can't recall something for Africa at the moment or stuff like that. But we want to expand the SPN. Since we had the milestone and reached 100%, we want to, of course, grow the network as well, because there's a lot of new people in the SPN. So we can afford it. We can have more servers, but it's always interesting to hear where you want to see those servers. Just spinning up new servers in Central Europe is easy for us because that's where we are.
Well, not everywhere actually. So it's also in Central Europe. Like in some countries are still not present on,
Yeah, sure.
because we're not finding good providers there. So if you, like, wherever you are in the whole world, know of a good provider that have a decent quality and not horrendous expensive traffic, then
Because that's the
please
most
tell us.
important part. The server can
We,
be can be expensive, but
yeah, if
traffic
the
is what.
traffic isn't, that's great.
Yeah. Traffic is what is the highest
Yeah.
cost for us. We're seeing terabytes of traffic on each of the servers, and we're considering, like, if a server has, like, what is the current? Is it 1.5 terabytes? We have a drop off point. If it's below that, we're looking into it, and we're like, okay, this is underutilized. Are the connections bad? Don't we actually get the bandwidth? Because Portmaster knows the speeds between the nodes. And if every portmaster sees this node as being slow, they don't use the node. So
Yeah, I think we kill nodes that get less than 300 megabits
in speed, but we're
in
also like we're using it as a proxy,
in
like once of
usage.
use.
It's hard. It's kind of a more case by case basis.
Yeah, we look always
If
into it.
if it's little in a crowded space, then there's something going on, and we usually kill it.
Yeah,
But there are, like, nodes in places where it's definitely underutilized, and it's also not that great. But so we really want that location, so we keep it. Yeah, it depends. So yeah.
Okay, FXO just mentioned Vodafone as an option. We will look into this. Leave us comments below on YouTube, of course, if you want. Hop onto the Discord. There's also a Matrix channel, which is very silent. I don't want to navigate too many people there because the Discord is so great. There have been so many very cool, also technical conversations lately. One of the co-hosts of the podcast I'm on also joined recently, and he's very much excited and scared about how much conversations are here. So Matt has joined the Discord, and super cool. So yeah, I guess that was our live stream, even though it was a little bit weird today. Thank you, Daniel, for being here.
Well, great. I think we had great conversations.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I think it's fun if we kind of go off topic a little bit, and kind of discuss related technology,
Sure.
because kind of shows the whole mindset of, like, where we're going and kind of what it is we want to build and we actually see as the future. And yeah, so actually kind of also is part of communicating vision. So yeah, I liked it. It was great,
Super cool.
even though weird. But yeah, that's it.
Super cool. Yeah, and people can leave comments below. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching the live stream. We will be here in 2 weeks. Hopefully, we will both be healthy then. I hope I made not too little sense today, but I felt it was okay as well. Thank you for everybody who was here. Have a good week.